why don't you lead this, Syamil, by just sharing a bit lah before we start off to talk about, take in any questions. Why don't you share a bit about VSN 2030 dulu lah. Kasih orang intro about VSN.
First and foremost, I want to introduce myself. Malam ni very santai punya talk. So, I'm Syamil. I'm from Data Sukan. Data Sukan ni subsidiary of Institut Sukan Negara. And as a result, we are bawah tim KBS lah. So, KBS ni untuk buat a roadmap, plan, a blueprint, for us to understand better the sporting punya ecosystem and to lead the industry into the next 10 years. So this blueprint roadmap is called Visi Sukan Negara. Okay. Jadi Visi Sukan Negara ni terlahir as a continuity from Dasar Sukan Negara, and basically now we have launched the Canvas Visi Sukan Negara, which starts from April to October. So Canvas ni Amende, Canvas ni is engagement punya total package and campaign. Kita nak dengar cakap orang, kita nak dengar, because we don't want to stand guilty of dah siap buat nanti short sendiri bro. So we want to listen and we want to absorb as much as we can and try to get constructive criticism so that engage with the people who can give us alternative solutions. Jadi itu background tentang Visi Sukan Negara. Tak perlulah nak go so deep kan. So thanks.
Okay, so right now it's more of a canvassing period. So I think what KBS, ISN is doing is trying to gather as much information as possible daripada member of the public. Tapi kita pernah buat discussion ni dekat Twitter Spaces lah. Kepada sesiapa yang tak join Twitter Spaces hari Jumaat lepas, we did something similar on Twitter Spaces, and we really had some really good questions lah. Syamil, you want to revisit these questions? I'll ask them back again.
Yeah, boleh bagi just tu, but I think we can also open up to the floor because I know it's not clear on where we want to start, but it's a good platform for us to just talk about anything, kan? Whether it's a small problem, big problem, apa. So our fellow speakers would be able to give us a lot of input. Carl, Nafis, Faiz. So this is what we want to talk about. Anyone who wants to say anything, raise your hands, come up.
Carl, Nafis, Faiz, you guys have any questions or remarks? Ada apa-apa nak kongsikan? Apa aspiration korang untuk blueprint baru ni, Visi Sukan Negara?
Saya akan beri laluan kepada Nafis dengan Faiz dulu.
Nafis go first.
Simple hidup, bangkis. By the way, aku tengah drive sebenarnya. Aku takut line aku tak clear. Is it clear?
Clear.
Okay, sefahaman aku tak adalah faham 100% so far Visi Sukan Negara ni. Tapi sefahaman aku, actually Syamil and the team, semua is trying to create the new culture which is membudayakan sukan yang sebenar lah. Sebab sebelum KBS sebelum ni. So basically itu yang aku nampak. There's some effort to make a new culture lah dalam sukan. Maybe yang boleh explain detail orang lain. Tapi so far yang...
Alamak, putus lah Fiz. Putus.
Yang tu yang...
Dah macam Twitter lah Clubhouse ni.
Macam Twitter space lah. Fiz, I think your message is loud and clear. Thank you bro. Tapi kita ni Sekretariat VSN lah. Tu yang thank you for raising this. Sekretariat Visi Sukan Negara ni terdiri daripada few units bro. Daripada KBS sendiri is led by KBS. We are just merely a small component of it. Team KBS is led by obviously Pejabat Menteri, whose this whole blueprint was a brainchild, tapi dia mandatekan untuk semua warga-warga KBS to take over. So we got Majlis Sukan Negara, Institut Sukan Negara, led by bahagian dasar dan perancangan strategik at KBS. They are the ones who are truly the owners of this document. Tapi yang bestnya, dia betul-betul buka. Dia bukakan jalan for town halls, website. Literally, kalau you nak pergi ke VSN2030.my, you nak maki, tapi biarlah maki yang berstruktur. Maki yang ada constructive criticism. Kita betul-betul welcome. So, that is the system yang dah dibina sekarang ni. Best juga tengok.
Carl, your turn, Carl. Any aspirations for Visi Sukan Negara?
Jap guys, ada hal dekat rumah jap. Just give me 5 minutes lah. Serius.
No worries, mate, no worries. Faiz?
I don't mind jumping in. So, hi Syamil, hi Yunus, hi Carl, hi Nafis. Thank you for inviting me for this Visi Sukan Negara Amende ni. First of all, the other day I heard some few comments and suggestions about on Twitter. There were some really good questions, especially towards the end though. There's one question about what happens if the change of government, will the Visi change and everything, which I see that is our problem lah. I think that I've always said from the start, even Carl knows me very well, that I've been saying that the problem is not in our sports. The problem is how we educate our people to understand and love the game, love sports. One thing that comes to mind, I think KJ dulu pernah cakap ni masa TN50, dia kata dia pelik kenapa education and sports is not in one ministry. So, can you elaborate, Syamil, if there is a possibility that might happen in the future?
First I'd like to echo your first part tu bro, betul. Thank you for raising that, and thank you to the person in the Twitter space dulu pun masa raise tu. Juan, bapak kau yang raise kan. So, the thing is, we are worrying the same thing sebenarnya. I think everyone in the team is worried about the longevity of this. From a personal, private standpoint, not from a secretariat punya point of view, myself pun takut, Faiz, because we are pouring our blood, sweat and tears into this. Jadi, kalau ke laut pun memang tak best lah for us. We mean well. However, to speak about continuity tu, I also want to touch something that I tak sempat nak explain masa Twitter space. In terms of continuity, political will can only go a certain way. If the working levels, the civil service and the administrators within the system are resolute enough, boleh to delay political will in terms of changing all these dasar-dasar dan policy. But it's not easy because number one, you need to seek beyond cabinet and also beyond that. Jadi from a process punya point of view, Faiz, kita ensuring that our plan of action, dia melibatkan semua orang, everyone, and the processes are very finite lah for now. We are trying to develop a plan yang everyone needs to own certain segments of the VC. So, sekarang ni tak sampai lagi lah tu. We are collecting high level, top level 30,000 feet punya feedback. So, these feedbacks will then be masuk dalam production line, masuk dalam sistem. So, kita collate and collect this information, pecahkan into the pillar yang sepatutnya, and then pass it on to the panels to discuss it within August macam tu. So, don't discuss, bergaduh. Then, we will attempt to together digest and keluarkan a blueprint by October also, insyaAllah. Yeah, bro. So, to add to that, I think this longevity of apa benda VSN ni, we need everyone on board lah. Itulah aku nak cakap. Because we know we have detractors, we have critics. However, I would like to call upon the critics and detractors to come on board. Mai sekali bagi your feedback and even work together to enhance our ecosystem, to make sure that this blueprint not something that is just palatau. So there you are.
And in terms of the education part do you see in the VC that you might add on to work on something with school, so at least our younger generations have their to be educated properly about loving and loving the idea of sports and understanding the meaning of support?
That's an excellent question, bro. In terms of policy making, regulatory punya structure, we have no say lah in terms of how cabinet punya structure is made. It does transcend the structure of this VC lah, maksudnya it does transcend that cabinet punya tu, because dia kena ada elements of collaboration between number one, education punya department and ministries. Number two is the ministries in trade, both international and domestic. And to many points actually, which we are discovering now with KKM, kesihatan as well. So, in terms of collaboration, yes, I can answer. Tapi in terms of penggabungan struktur kementerian tu, we cannot say anything for now. But if you ask me whether we will recommend it, if it comes above, and beyond the data speaks for itself, of course, we will put in all those recommendations, bro. For sure.
I think it must lah, Syamil. I mean, I think we need to recommend this to the people higher ups. I think because I don't think kalau macam if this is an effort that is solely from KBS, from the Ministry of Youth and Sports, I don't think it's gonna fly. I think I agree with Faiz. There's a huge need for intergovernment or interministerial collaboration here. Especially with the ministries that you mentioned just now. Penting lah, bro. Kalau tak ada, payah lah. I don't see this becoming a reality.
Yeah, I mean, bukan apa lah. It's just that I'm just thinking about the idea of, I don't want us to waste our time figuring out what to do with sports right now, because I'd rather us think about what should be done first, and I feel that education, it comes first no matter what. If we with a good education, we can have a good long-term plans for sports.
But Faiz, I guess, sorry, aku baru just settle benda kat rumah. In order to get the education, one must remember, in order to have education, we have to have trust. I think that has been the most this is the most overlooked thing ever. There has the trust deficit antara people, the administrators, and everyone around the ecosystem is actually trust. Trust takes time. And how do we take the steps to build the trust? How do we build the steps to reduce the trust deficit? Macam Syamil tekan tadi, ada orang kritik, ada detractors apa semua tu. I mean, obviously lah ada yang kritik palatau apa semua tu kan. Macam Nafis kata tadi. Tapi how do we regain the trust and the faith of everyone to work together? I think it's always been the lack of trust between everyone.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly correct, Carl. That's actually my second point, because how would Visi Sukan Negara 2030 gain trust to people to believe that this is going to work, rather than, we have the perspective of everything has been done in the short term. So, sorry, Faiz, sorry to interject, but not only to believe that the thing is working, but the thing is actually working, functioning. So macam
there's a lot. But there's a lot of things that's already not functioning now. I mean, government is going through a crisis of legitimacy at the moment. So it's really hard. It's really challenging. But I think the discussion is that everyone is aware that there is a need of some interministerial thing, and the trust that you're talking about needs to be, we need to fill in that gap.
Betul lah guys. You guys are absolutely correct. Carl, Faiz, benda macam kita cakap pasal trust deficit kan, there's a almost insurmountable, tak boleh nak tutup punya trust deficit in terms of between governance and rakyat. So tapi we see, as much as I can share pun, it's up to you guys whether to take it with a grain of salt kan, but we see earnest understanding of what needs to be done. Okay, which starts with this lah. I think the clear cycle that we are going through now is that we are taking a look into our own, internalizing a look. Maksudnya kita looking at our own processes, the integrity and professionalism within our own processes juga. So at the start pun benda ni is a view map lah, it's a waypoint finder. Kita understand that we are the enablers, the regulators are not just policy makers, lawmakers anymore. They need to be proactive, they need to be progressive kan. Malas juga cakap benda all these terms semua, but honestly we see that KBS wants to listen sekarang ni guys. So,
tapi tu Syamil, tu macam like KBS kan, I mean like a lot of, I'll speak for myself lah. I think in my eyes, in my view, I think KBS is doing something fantastic. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I think that, sometimes it's probably chewing too much, because it needs the collaboration of all these ministers that might be in contention for some legitimacy issue, So that's the tough part on the side of the minister, right? But what I think, mate, what I think as well is that I'm really happy that the community is, bundling together, and talking about this, and and doing something. I think these things like this provides an opportunity for networking, collaboration that does not need any kind of government or state intervention. Like things that could happen with the women futsal and Carl, for example, with Badan Bola Sepak, things that can be done on a community level without whether there's a trust or distrust of the community and the government, gerak je lah. I think community is there. I think this is the most exciting thing for me, despite the fact that there's a lack of belief.
If I may add a bit there, bro, dia macam tadi Carl sebut about the trust deficit, and one thing, very interesting thing that Carl, what you encapsulated was that this thing needs time. Because to reduce the trust to not just to see a plan, but to see that the plan is working lah. To see that it is beneficial, it is fulfilling all the janjis that it's making. So it requires a bit of time kan. So what we're here to do is to plan this out. We are also sometimes in the risk of being resigned to, alah, kalau kita angkat pun sama juga nanti menteri angkat ni, tukar ni, they will use it to their own benefit. But at the end of the day, sometimes we revisit ourselves, then understand that someone needs to start, someone needs to do something about it. Hence we're trying to really kick off, start the ball. Yeah bro,
Sorry, aku tambah sikit boleh tak? Aku suka ayat kau yang last tadi tu, yang someone needs to start this kind of thing. Faham tak?
tambah bro.
Aku rasa benda-benda ni memanglah someone yang kena start benda ni. Everyone can start actually. Tapi in terms of nak buat benda-benda macam ni, someone kena ada satu role yang to know, segmentizekan betul-betul who's your target to make this thing betul-betul jadi. Faham tak maksud aku? Macam mana aku nak cakap? Sebab banyak effort daripada KBS before this. Banyak zaman, tak kisah zaman KJ, even zaman Shabari Cik pun banyak. Tapi at the end of the day, dia tak segmentizekan kelompok orang yang dia target tu. Contohnya maybe dulu aku rasa maybe 10-20 tahun lepas, which is maybe that time aku still sekolah lagi, kau try nak tarik orang muda, tapi sebenarnya orang yang mengusahakan tu orang yang lebih cenderung untuk planning yang maybe 20-30 tahun lepas, yang maybe tak relevant untuk that time ataupun sekarang. You got what I mean or not?
Yeah, I follow you here.
So aku rasa semua orang boleh start, tapi the tricky part is siapa yang boleh betul-betul segmentize kan. Okay, kelompok mana yang kita nak target to make this. Sebab benda macam ni dia tak akan jadi kalau orang usaha keras saja. Dia akan jadi bila someone demand on it. Seriously. Itu pendapat aku lah.
Thanks bro, thanks. Betul tu. I mean, kita realise that in terms of wanting to segmentize the kelompok, kita dah boleh segmentize dah. Peace. Tapi in terms of understanding the pure punya plan of action dengan the ambassadors and the icons and the the enablers, aggregator dalam that single segment yang we refer to be honest, we haven't been able to map it out fully yet. So, tu yang kita nak try faham. And truth be told, memang gila bro. It's such a wide landscape that memang sometimes it feels very daunting lah. Rasa macam aduh hai, gelabahnya. Because you look at sports, you look at the stakeholder dalam sport semua orang bro. Whether engkau 7-year-old who start to suka naik basikal, naik strider ke apa, right up to a 74-year-old yang buat tai chi wushu pagi-pagi subuh semua. You are stakeholder. Apa yang kau cakap still relevant to the sporting punya ecosystem. So, dia presents challenges lah. Memang penat lah. Renyah. Tapi we are trying to cut through the noise and find the seed of the problem semua. Try to dengar lah.
Sorry Syamil, can I add on something?
Please,
what
guys.
Nafis tanya, bagi tahu tadi. Actually, Nafis' point tu was actually brilliant. Who is the target we need to understand? I feel that kita patutnya buat Clubhouse ni for the under 17 people. Under 17, age 17. Budak high school, budak sekolah rendah should listen to this and point their opinion and let them be a leader in their own what they want to do for sports, because they are the future. They are the ones that are moving forward for us. So that's why I said that we need to work something with the education and give them the platform instead of us. Kita ni dah umur 30 tahun lebih, 40 tahun bercakap-cakap dalam ni. Baik kita open up that floor to them. What you think about that opinion?
Betul siut. Serious, agree siut. So itulah, I mean we are open for collaborative proposals to come in semua, because sekarang ni nak get change punya management into the organisation is one thing tau guys. Internalizing dia satu benda. Lepas tu nak talk to everyone, rakyat, agencies, NSAs. We're talking about segmenting thousands and thousands of stakeholders. So we're trying to start lah. We're trying to start at the right place lah. Jauh begini, jauh nak bergerak ni.
Hi everyone. Sorry.
Hi Mutiara.
Hi Kal. Hi Faiz. Hi Azri. Nafis.
Hello.
Okay. Sorry lambat, and I don't know what I missed out or anything because I was over on another conversation. But anyway, I hope soalan ni belum tanya lagi, so I can ask about it. I've been viewing the pillars. I've been studying it petang tadi just so that I have an idea what is all about, but I'm sure there's something that I still miss out, and I hope what I point out someone will help me to explain so I can understand better and believe in this vision. How are we going to put a scale to it on this vision? That's what I wanted to know, because some of the pillars, you have 6 pillars, which are not new. Some people in the sports circle have been talking about them, some even implementing them, and others who may have achieved it. So what kind of yardstick do we have to help people measure their achievement on the vision? Contoh macam football, I can only speak about football in specific. Other sport, I'm not sure. Even football pun is very new for me, but it's just that let's say Kepada FC kan, they have plans for Sport City. They have reached to the grassroots. Have really good business plan. We can say that Kepada FC has already have achieve their vision, this vision, even to see that some of the pillars that you have here. So if so, can we make them the model football club in achieving the vision? What people actually need is a clear roadmap and perhaps a more systematic support system. So we know where we are, where we're going, how to get there, and how we have gotten there. What do you think, Shamil? Or Yunus?
I think Yunus, you want to say something about that first, Yunus?
Okay, wait. Well, I'm really glad that Mutiara mentioned Kerteh because I work closely with them, for quite some time already. I think from the very beginning. I
Wait,
think,
hold on. I'm only able to point out Kerteh because I've interviewed both the CEO and president myself.
Syed,
So I'm able to tell. I'm sorry to other. There's no offense. Kalau tak tercakap or tak piak. I'm able to talk confidently about them because I've spoke with them, and I mean I'm very happy with their plans and everything.
well, thanks, Mutiara. I'll mention this to Syed, maybe perhaps later tonight. But the thing is about Kerteh, it's a small club, and it's very manageable, and they're not as ambitious as any other club. They are a bit more realistic. They look into their pockets. They know this is how much they have, and they work on that. They look at the people around them. They know what their capacity is, and then they work up of a plan that they think and believe that they can achieve with the resources that they have around them. So that's why they're not playing in M3 this year, despite their home rivals like Real Chukai is playing, right? Because they have it all planned out. They know their capacity, they know their strength. So it's really manageable in that sense. So when it comes to Kerteh, coming up with a scale or a system or something systematic that ensures what are the things that you've achieved, can we move to the next phase in the plan already, despite the fact that we've completed it earlier. These are the things it's easier in comparison to Visi Sukan Negara. If you look at the six pillars, I had friends of mine, giving me a call, having discussions with me, telling me that, some of these pillars are contradictory to the rest, to each other, right? For example, some pillars would focus more on greater participation, meaning huge investment into the people, the Jills and Joes, right? But then again, a few of these pillars would require greater investment into something a bit more elite, right? Which then again is a contradiction to the other pillar, which focuses more on greater participation. So this is the thing that I think what the canvassing period right now needs to focus on first and foremost. But I do agree with you, Mutiara. The fact that even though the canvassing period is all about focusing what are the nuances from the public, I think what's also important is for us to come up with mechanisms on how to make assessments later on, fair assessments, fair judgments, which would allow later for Visi Sukan Negara to organically revise itself. So I think Shamil mentioned this last Friday when he was talking about VSN being a living blueprint, right? That it's not like set on stone, right? It is always, and it has the capacity to keep on changing organically depending on the market and what the market believes in. So Shamil, what do you think, mate?
Betul. I also want to tambah a bit lah. Thanks bro for explaining that. Tapi Mutiara also good question lah, babe. Dia nak tambah in the sense that when you asked about indices, what I assumed was how do we rate it, how do we judge it, after a certain amount of time ke apa. This vision ni from a strategic punya point of view, okay, ni from an administrative punya point of view, needs to adhere to the current relevant plans within the kita punya administrative structure. Okay, plans such as Wawasan Kemakmuran Bersama. Then we talk about 12 Malaysia Plan. Then we talk about also internationally towards UN punya Sustainable Developmental Goals. So, how we judge it will be based on various parameters. For example, KEGAS, Key Economic Growth punya factors. Then we look at standard indices for KPIs, which conforms to all that. Okay, to the boring part of the answer, I tolak tepi dulu. Now the good part of the answer lah, I hope.
The not so boring.
Not so boring lah, hopefully. So, the idea of forcing change to Mutiara, dia kena frame it from what we have to understand diagnostic, where we are right now. We have to understand the history behind it, and we have to understand predictive where we are headed. Okay, and what is the probability of the outcome that we are headed to. Using our Bayesian punya approach, which is using frequentist plus probability, we try to extract data yang akan most probable and possible. Okay, so kita create policies which are nurture and nature towards that possible scenario. So dia bukannya just buta-buta dah lah sekarang. Okay, so itu in the approach that kita nak build the policies. Tapi when you talk about kertih ke apa semua, these are success stories which must be highlighted. So benda ni I boleh jawab directly lah. We would love to highlight this kind of success stories, but also intrinsically faham macam mana they got that success, and then disseminate that to the entire market. Itu kerja kami.
Oh, that's really good, man. Come to Kerteh.
Hey, can we hear from Rizal, Azri and Cameron?
Sorry guys, by the way, aku kena ciao dulu. Aku jadi prepare untuk game Italy Wales. Thank you guys.
Have fun. Stay safe.
Jangan
All
parau
best, man.
sangat malam ni.
Ciao.
Hey, you know Syamil, Rizal dengan Azri dengan Cameron tadi tak sempat nak cakap apa-apa.
Azri.
Rizal.
Yes, bro.
Tengah stretching ke tu? Hi guys, hi Rizal.
Hi guys, hi Mutiara. Syamil, thanks for pulling me up. Tak bagi tahu, tak warning pun Tahu-tahu kena panggil, suruh speak pula Oh well.
Layan je. Please.
But yeah, I mean, thanks for the opportunity. I've been following VSN punya development quite a while. In fact, I had the opportunity dengan Syamil. He shared a little bit of the so-called blueprint behind it, the pillars, even before it was officially ini. And I told him it's fantastic. I would say it's complete. It fulfills every part of what it's meant to be. But again, touching to the points that you guys were discussing earlier as well about the implementation and so on. Because me myself, we had the opportunity to be a part of since I think TN50, and all the town halls held by different ministers. Kebanyakan, they got great points, great ideas, but it stops there. So my question to Syamil when he shared about VSN was, it's great, but how are we going to make it a success? The whole implementation and execution of it. But kudos to Syamil and his team. Syamil ni a bit technical sikit, when he explains, a lebih passionate, so it gets everyone to really understand. But we ourselves as stakeholders here, we had to play a role because I think this VSN is a long way to go. Me myself being a part of so-called ecosystem maybe a academy, a club, or even a sports complex operator. But how do we fit in and adjust the whole 6 pillars into the whole ecosystem at the end of the day, which I think is going to be quite a task, but we need the support. I think we need the support of all the stakeholders, and on top of that, how do we foresee benda ni to continue? The legacy continues because yalah, we know minister tukar, minister nak legacy sendiri, kan? But why can't it be as simple as take the same book, improvise and improve? I mean, that's my point of view lah.
Mantap. Thanks for putting me in the spot. So anyway, ni
Kau tarik aku naik atas, kena jawab sikit ni.
Thanks lah. So, anyway, tadi I didn't address satu soalan tadi ataupun satu concern lah. Macam Yunus dengan Mutiara raise just now about the pillars tu. Okay. Ni satu yang, okay, when you say I'm technical, maafkan I need to explain it in a technical way. To have these pillars, it is, memang you all pernah dengar, benda ni compass. It's the east, southwest, southeast, northwest and so on and so forth. However, it is not standalone. It cannot be compartmentalized between each other. So it needs to be counter-sustainable. It needs to intertwine and also run in a concurrent punya spirit. Okay. So, for example, pembangunan bakat as its own pillar also, transcends culturalization. It begins from culturalization and then it moves into pembangunan bakat. And at some point, you want the continuity to move into the kegemilangan sukan pula. So, we couldn't just break down the pillars down to the subject matters. We also had to look at the relevancy, or, for lack of a better term, that frequency of those issues rising to be able to understand the tangent of macam mana kita nak approach benda ni. Jadi, these pillars ni non-exhaustive, guys. There could be 10, there could be 11, wallahu alam, but it's something that will form itself organically. Jadi for now, all those pillars are intertwined with each other. Dia bergerak bersama. So secondly pula, Rizal, when you talk about that implementation plan, that's why we believe that a decade may not be enough. 10 tahun pun maybe tak cukup. However, if there's growth, if there's increased efficiency from, natural collaboration, so aku tahu, so at some point the subject of NSA akan naik, persatuan. Ada 136 national NSA, ada I think the last count was about more than 10,000 local, state and also district-based sports associations. So you imagine the amount of people that we need to engage. Tu baru daripada PJS punya purview. When we talk about sports industry tu, wow, we haven't even begun to langgar the tip of the iceberg kan. Kalau kita ni Titanic ni destined to sink pun, kita ni baru langgar iceberg tu lah. So that's where kita nak suai kenal tu, orang kata icebreaker tu. So for now, this kind of town halls we want to speak to our fellow rakyats. So we are a megaphone nak amplify apa benda VSN ni, but we also an earphone. We need to listen. So yeah, I hope that gives you an insight on what we're trying to do lah, bro.
Fantastic, bro. Great explanation.
So for Cameron, Azri, bros, anything? Carl ke?
Okay, aku ada soalan.
Okay, bro.
So sekarang ni canvas period ni, first question is canvas period sampai bila, and what happens if kita tak boleh move forward from this canvas punya phase? What are the things that you're going to do to escalate the process tu? And in terms of research ni, kau ada prioritize mana-mana target group tak for you to expedite their, progress in terms of your vision? Ke is like a general thing?
Hello, Shamil. Sorry, this is a question that I think you need to address.
Yeah, okay. Good question, Azri. Thank you. Ni project management punya grilling ni. So the duration of the project, of the canvas punya period is up to October. The public punya engagement was from 7th of April, the launching of the canvas, up to mid-October. So, but to add to that, since August last year, ada internal punya engagement lah, iaitu all the MSN, semua 9 agensi bawah KBS dan semua sub-agencies and anak syarikat bawah tu. So we've done the internal process dulu, then from April up to October, bro. Okay. In terms of targeting tu, also is parallel with the segmentation. For targeting tu, I think I can share that we have broken it down into several target groups, and we have ascertained ways to communicate, to singularly communicate with all these target groups lah. Jadi to answer you here, we're trying to take a wider perspective, where only not even halfway through that process lagi, bro. Jadi at some point kita require the cycle to fulfill itself lah. However, I juga nak share the challenge of this, bro, because masa touch about the pillar and then touch about the target market, dia dua-dua tu berbalik-balik dia kacau each other tau. Dia bercampur lah. Because some stakeholders, for example kita ambil persatuan semua, they have a totally different point of view to the business punya side, or even the athletes under their purview juga. So kita nak create equilibrium of what they think and what the other side think. Can you imagine tak, from a data collection punya perspective, kita ada dua tangent yang sangat berbeza. So that is a challenge lah, bro. Tu yang we need to underline the fact that do we have all the answers? No, we don't. Will we be able to garner even more than half, 50% of the right answers? We don't know. And I would say that from a law of averages, no, tak pun. But if we garner efficacy rate of 50, efficacy ni word yang sangat popular sekarang. Tapi kalau kita boleh efficacious, right, even 10% ke apa, it's a place to start. Itulah tempat yang kita nak start. But of course kita nak target a better start lah. But that's where we are right now, bro.
Hi guys, Cameron here. First of all, my opinions are my own, nothing from where I work. So just a quick question, Shamil. You've got the 6 pillars. Don't you think that's a little... Well, I agree they are intertwined and everything. Is there a strategy to where you're going to start first? Because I think that if you want to go with all 6 at once, it might be too big a task to get it up and running. So do you actually have a strategy on where you're going to start first, or at the moment your plan is to go all at once?
We are actually the Secretariat VSN, which is consistent of a few bahagians and units and all. We are taking the role of basically the map, the drawers, pelukis map, the penulis of the lyrics and all now, first camp. So with that perspective in mind, bro, we need to take the broadest perspective possible. That means try to produce a wayfinder that is as wholesome as possible. So in that point, we have to garner that wholesome perspective. Tapi when it comes to implementation, bro, it's far from just KBS. So for example, if you take one pillar out, in singularity, is the kecemerlangan sukan. We're not reinventing the wheel. Kita bukan nak take back ke, bukan nak tukar everything ke apa, just kacau bilaukan semua benda. The podium program, MSM program will still continue. However, it will be refined and distilled and filtered for the betterment of everyone, for the process itself, for the athletes, and for the actual interpretation of what needs to be done, bro. Jadi dia again, I'm not ejecting myself from this, bukannya nak kata play safe ke apa, bro. Tapi again, I want to underline, kita plan, kita tulislah roadmap ni apa semua. However, the POA, the plan of action tu, semua orang kena embrace. Kalau tak, memang tak ke mana lah, Cam. Memang we also can't do anything beyond that.
Because I mean I agree, memang semua pillar tu penting. So just on my view is, kalau kita fokus pembudayaan sukan dan pembangunan bakat, secara indirectly you'll start getting kegemilangan sukan. You get
True.
And then you're getting the sports. So and then you strengthen the sports industry, and then professionalism will come in. So for me, what I think just on the top of my head looking at this is that maybe a little bit more emphasis should be put on in sports culture and the development of future talent and bakat and grassroots. So that way, a byproduct of focusing on sports sports culture and the development of talent, you will get kegemilangan sukan. You will get sports hubs growing up. You get the sports industry will naturally grow. That's my view. Also, I would feel that those 2 points, those 2 pillars, at the moment, based on our current situation, would probably be the most important to look at. But that's my view. I don't know what the rest of you guys. What do you think?
That's brilliant, bro. That's actually brilliant because you've just hit the nail on the head.
But
So
I think Richard might disagree. Richard is here, right? I would assume that Richard might think that professionalism in sport is more important. That is the pillar that needs focusing. Richard, how betul tak? Oh, Richard tak ada.
alah, Richard lari lah.
Amel, aku ada another question to add on, but
Go ahead, bro.
what's the lowest hanging fruit that you see that you can achieve from your 6 pillars ni? In your opinion lah.
Okay. That answer actually Cameron just hit it on the nail on the head tadi, because the 2 largest initiatives to start now would be the pembangunan bakat and also the pembudayaan sukan. So there is an organic punya cycle that we want to reach with this. Kita tak boleh assume it's magic and just get things done within a month or 2. So there is an organic cycle that we need to fulfill lah. So benda tu it's again, it complements each other. As one portion grows, the other also organically grows. Jadi kita betul-betul looking forward to that organic growth lah.
I can hear Faisal clipping his notes. Faisal, you got anything to say, mate?
Thanks, Yunus. Assalamualaikum everyone. Good evening. I believe from governance perspective lah, whatever you mean your views on planning or any planning document, I believe that planning is dispensable lah. It's important, whatever it is. So our aim is to streamline, to ensure that everybody is on the same path, having the same objectives towards what we dream of for our sports for the next 10, 20, 50 years. And I believe having such discussion, engagement are very critical for us to get your views, your dreams on nation sports. But I think one question that we all need to together understand is who actually make sports happen. I think that's the point that Shamil has been trying to say, that it's not nowadays. It's no longer about government driving all the programs and initiatives. We realize that the days where government knows everything is over. Itu hakikat dia. Kami sedar, kita sedar, and we need to have all cylinders working together towards the same objectives. And on Cameron's point on which area or which pillar that we were going to start, I believe it's all concurrently. We need to together, because sports is super huge. It's a huge industry. It's a huge ecosystem. All disciplines from business, from the sciences, technology, whatever, education, sports specific. It's all contribute to the sports sphere. So it will be concurrently based on respective stakeholders' importance. Because I believe, take for instance, the talent ID and development. You see, now it's very government centric. We have schools nurturing talent, and then at the secondary level, you have a program in secondary schools, and also later you have MSN Negeri, and then Sukma, and then National MSN program. I believe it's too government centric. We realize that the rise of private clubs, the rise of community clubs, the rise of parents taking over or nurturing sports among their children is currently getting better. And I believe that this is where the dependency to government should be must be lessened, and our aim is to get everybody on board. Community clubs, private clubs, NSAs, they should have their own talent plan. Sebut-sebut berapa banyak NSA ada dia punya own talent plan. I know maybe except for FAM or maybe badminton, the rest berapa puluh-puluh sukan lagi ada ke tidak? So how do we communicate that? How do we just a small portion of talent idea and development. And then kalau kita sebut pasal adoption of sports technology, sports science, even MSN negeri pun tak ada bahagian sains sukan. So we are still far away from achieving boleh kata sporting nation level lagi, belum lagi.
Sorry Faizal, any reason
Yeah.
Why the MSN negeri don't have a sport science punya department?
I was quite perplexed juga, macam mana boleh tak ada. Very few yang ada, they realise the importance, but their dependency to the central federal agency macam ISN. Dia kata ISN tak buat, kita pun tak boleh, kita tak ada duit. So tak ada itu, tak ada no resources. I believe this is something, the mindset has to change. Perubahan mindset perlu berlaku. Administrators at various levels lah kena start creating value lah for sports kan. There is one thing lah, itu perjuangan yang kita perlu ni lah. Myself pun macam now we are at ISN, kita tengah cuba untuk taking a blue ocean approach, rather than establishing ISN Satellite Center, our branches, we work together recognizing, we want to start recognizing universities as the satellite center. They have all the resources, they have premises, they have facilities, they have academias working on sports science, sports technology. So rather than we establish different setup, why not we work with them, just like what many sporting nations are doing. So I believe this is in the process. Banyak benda yang kita perlu fikirkan, banyak benda yang kita perlu lakukan bersama. Perjuangan ni masih jauh lah. Tapi itulah, satu lagi perkara macam kita ada banyak idea kan. Looking at industry kan, currently we have only one really we call it professional league lah, only the MFL, National Football League, and we all know that having a proper professional league is the best platform for the consumers of sport, the sport industry to prosper. Is where, I mean, using the league itself as an asset, kat situlah all the support system of the sports we get the visibility, kan? Whether you are in merchandise, whether you are in marketing, whether sponsorship, support system, sports science, semua akan dapat visibility. Then I believe one of the ways is for us to for the government juga untuk start incentivizing to have maybe second, third professional league. Hoki nombor 11 dalam dunia, professional league pun tak ada. Memang menyedihkan juga, saya pun rasa sedih juga. Our hockey league, our hockey team nampak gagah, nombor 9 dalam dunia, professional league pun tak ada. And then apa lagi, I think that's it for now lah. Tapi
sorry,
this is my thinking lah.
Saya
pun
sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in. Can I macam add on to, because I've been hearing from the start tadi, everybody's been saying that we all should work together, get things together. That's the only way. But that is actually our number one problem. We should focus on first before we do think about sports. Because as you can see that in Malaysia, our sports, the most successful sports people are only individual sports. Our team sports semua tak tahan lama, as in tak sustain lama lah, as in we always die with team sport. So I think rather on us focus on what needs to be done with sports. I think we should change that that mentality that our society to work together. Itu je. We have daripada sekolah lagi. I think we have to implement this. That Malaysians do need to work together. Because sekarang ni you can see that there's a lot of egos between every tak kisahlah daripada any body of sports body and anybody. Nobody wants to work together. Everybody has their own opinion. But how do we get people to work together? That is the solution that I think we should focus on.
Yeah,
Betul bro.
Mel, that's the thing. Contoh in TID kan, talent development, our plan for this pillar is to come up with a guiding document for all. What are the spirits of talent ID? What are the principles of TID? So respective stakeholders, whether it's NSAs, community club, private club, can come out with their own talent plan based on the guiding document. I think it's a good start for us to maneuver and embark. And also memang sports ni memang meluas. For instance, our pipeline, kita pun during our foundation years, masa kita sekolah, pergi sekolah mendengar, we can see that most of our talented athletes did well at the school level, primary, secondary. Selalu ada achievement dekat the ASEAN schools. When our team pergi overseas menang this competition, invitational tournaments, banyak. But I think the missing pipeline sekarang, from the transition period from being a junior athlete to senior athlete, is our college sports. I always be consistent in this. We need to commercialize and enhance the quality of our college sports. This is very critical period from 18 to 23 years old, di mana tidak ada ekosistem pertandingan yang berkualiti dalam Malaysia. Maknanya kat sinilah kita akan berlaku keciciran bakat. Keciciran bakat banyak berlaku kat sini. Kita ambil contoh je, I always call on the terms, kita kena NCAA kan kita punya college sports. Selected sports, given the right ecosystem, transform branding, make it attractive to investment, to investors, to sponsorship, and then getting the best talented athletes from Asia, giving a scholarship, come here in Malaysia and compete. So in that way, we can enhance the quality of competition among our college athletes, and they will be here to compete, be a student athlete, and then from there, they won't be missing gain from the system. Itu yang berlaku sekarang ni. Banyak keciciran because tak ada tempat untuk mereka teruskan bakat mereka. Because kita selalu diberi dapat dengar cerita, because ada some of the athletes, ada yang late bloomer kan, towards the end baru dia nak ni, tapi tak ada tempat untuk dia teruskan dia punya bakat. We can see kalau sistem dah ada, dia akan stay in the pipeline, and maybe sooner or later he or she will be discovered by the system or by the clubs. So this is the missing link, I believe.
But Faisal, that's the tricky thing, isn't it? Like macam, I mean, for this to happen, right, you need to have some kind of collaboration or some MOU with Kementerian Pendidikan. And this is something that Faiz mentioned like much earlier tau. So that's the thing. A lot of us are worried because there's some of us believe that there's an absence of commitment from the other ministry. Contoh macam sports industry, you need some kind of commitment from MITI. If they're not involved, then no one's going to recognize sports as an industry in the first place. That's the challenge. So how do we resolve this tricky part?
I believe to transform college sports is something I believe it's an easier challenge rather than recognizing sports industry. It's going to be, we already have a college competition, Kepada Sukan Varsity, and I believe the only way is to meet Masum, because we already have planned. Cik Mustaza, the newly elected head of sports industry, he was from university, from UiTM. We have spoken to him that this is something that we need to do. to transform varsity sports. So he's on board, and I believe next is for us to convince Masum that because Masum is our NCAA basically. So they are the coordinator, they are the event organizer for college sports in Malaysia. This is something we already have the system in place, but how do we move it to the next level? Itu persoalan dia sekarang.
Alright, thank you bro. Okay, if I may, I should reset the room ya. Kita 1 hour into our session sekarang. Basically, welcome again to everyone who's just joined us. This session is called Visi Sukan Negara 2030, Amende ni. Bro, Pejan, boleh mute your mic please? Okay, to sambung, just to recap a bit what is Visi Sukan Negara, Amende Visi Sukan Negara ni? It is a 10-year roadmap, a blueprint to be produced by Kementerian Belia dan Sukan. It is an initiative that is in its first form sekarang, iaitu Canvas Visi Sukan Negara, which will run up until October this year. So this canvas is a medium for KBS to listen and to garner feedback, listen to your inputs, and also take note of all constructive criticism in order for us to together build a blueprint for everyone. Okay. So I'd like to thank all our fellow speakers, Yunus, Karl, Faiz, Rizal, Mutiara, Azri, Cam, Faizal, Richard. We also have multiple requests, raise hands, sekarang to come up. However, we want to cap this session to about 75 minutes. So the last 15 minutes ni, I'd just like to spend to correct from the speakers pula. It's my turn to ask you guys questions. So the question that we want to pose to you is a very important one. It's something that we've considered for a very long time. So the question is that we want to know from you, dalam keadaan sekarang ni, post-pandemic COVID-19 ni, what in your mind, in your opinion, is the best measure untuk address this current burden by the sports industry? Okay, we know that a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation has been going on about this, but we want it because we want to note down, minitkan untuk Visi Sukan Negara. So I'd like to ask the speakers, what do you think are the best, most low, macam Azri tanya I tadi, most low hanging fruit? I'd like to know from you guys pula, what's the most low hanging fruit for in terms of to settle the economic burdens of the sports industry sekarang?
Azri jawab dulu. Azri jawab dulu lah. Tu soalan dia dulu.
Lowest hanging fruit, I think for the government to be able to open the sports sector gradually lah, tu benda yang paling penting, because we see a lot of idle talents, idle businesses right now kan, sebab it's a very short term problem and long term problem. Kita perlu buka balik the sports industry, teliti balik the SOP to see how you can curb the COVID from spreading kan. So like it or not, we have to start there, because if sports tak jalan, then Visi Sukan Negara ni pun tak boleh nak jalan bro. So I feel that sports need to start again as soon as possible, see what areas that can be reopened, whether it's the elite level, grassroots level or developmental level. Apa-apa level sekalipun, I think sports needs to be open very, very soon lah. Kalau tak, everybody will be psychologically and emotionally be battered, and they won't just, sorry for my language, they won't give a fuck lah about sports, because then orang akan tengok government pun tak kisah, is the first thing that gets closed and is the last thing that gets open. So then why would I care about sports if government pun tak kisah? So, my lowest hanging fruit would be tak nak kena buka balik lah. Slowly, I'm not asking for 100% capacity, but then we have to do it slowly, gradually, meticulously, and see whether it can be open within a certain set of parameters that tak langgar SOP yang ada sekarang ni.
Okay, best. I think kita pun boleh enforce that. I think you all know that Yang Berhormat Menteri has been maintaining a very active dialogue dengan MKN and with the leaders in question lah. He, on one occasion pun, if you guys can see, that he expressed his frustration that the inputs of KBS not taken, into proper consideration. Tapi I nak call upon seorang member kita belum berborak lagi hari ni. Tapi in this context, I think Richard, would you be able to add something to this, Richard?
Hey, Shamil, hi. Firstly, thank you for inviting me here, and I would like to apologize to Yunus just now. I heard his question, but while I was trying to click the microphone button, I ended up clicking leave quietly button. So, my apologies, Yunus. Yeah, my bad.
No worries, mate.
Then by the time I came back, someone else spoke, so it was, of course, quite rude for me to intervene. So I apologize for that. And can I wish everybody here who's a dad a happy Father's Day. Selamat Hari Bapa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not easy to be a dad. Not easy to be a human being. What more when you need not to be a dad in this current time. Shamil, I've been very fortunate. I am assisting the. For some background, I am a lawyer, and I'm very excited to always tell people that I work for sports. It's an area of work which I love and really enjoy. So at the moment, I've been very privileged to represent about 100 over companies, representing the Sports Industry Coalition, a loose coalition led by a few gentlemen. And I can share with you that this coalition, which existed since February this year, had approached the Minister KBS with a relevant SOPs. SOPs has been discussed and approved and acknowledged. MKN actually was just about to announce the new SOP for sports industries, especially mass participation and closed-door participations like gyms. Unfortunately, just before he was going to announce, the MKN minister was just about to announce, the defense minister, sorry, our numbers, as you know, shot up sky high. And so it would have been insensitive for the government at the time to promote sports. At the moment, Shamil, I can share with you that one of the proposals we have is that we have already noticed that some states within Malaysia have very low cases of COVID. And we are trying to reignite the discussion by speaking to people in KBS to suggest that maybe those states we can conduct and carry on mass participation sports first. So in order to start the wheel rolling again, we don't have to start everything in Klang Valley. As you know, Malaysia is very Klang Valley based. But there are other states which we can start first. So that's one. Number two, to answer a question earlier about what can we do, I like what Azri said, and I actually share sentiments what he said. I think if you recall, Shamil, a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure to host a similar talk like this on Zoom with the very same sports industry people. And I said this, Shamil, I said that whether the government like it or not, I know the government is pressed for cash. But if we really want to save the industry, which means saving people's rice bowl and effectively people's life, we need a fund, a dana sukan, which must be allocated for the reignite sports industries, events, the mass participation, tournaments, school events, college events, anything private sector want to do, they have to have these funds. We can look at what they do in Australia and Singapore as a guiding principle. They've done it there, we can do it here. But that's short term. Short term, we can't just throw money and then, it may be abused. Don't forget the dana may be abused. So we just need to get the ball rolling again. That we need. And I'm not looking at maybe 100 to 200,000. I think unfortunately we need a few million ringgit to start the whole thing again. And then of course, this can be offset by merchandising. We can always have events calling it sports revival. And ISN owns the brand Team Mas. ISN can reignite the industry, do sales. From that sales, we can always try to recoup here and there, etc., etc. Of course, I don't have a holistic solution, but at least we have a purpose and intent. Then the long-term plan, Shamil, in my view, is that to revitalize the interest in sports. Actually, people love sports in Malaysia. You just get Lee Chong Wei play Lindan in a final, everybody will go to every single stall, anywhere in Malaysia, every corner, and watch the game. So we love sports. We love our sports. And everyone is a badminton champion. You just take a badminton racket with only 2 strings left and a shuttlecock with 1 feather left, and we can play badminton outside the house. So Malaysians by nature, kita memang suka sukan. Kita memang berminat bermain sukan. What I think we can do in long term, since we have this opportunity to revive and reignite the sports industry, is to actually give impetus to people to play sports. And not just normal sports, but also e-sports. As you know, e-sports can also reignite the finance. Though I think some people may not disagree with me in terms of kecerdasan, but in fact, it is still a kind of sports that we have to look at. But that aside, putting esports aside, we need to revitalize the interest for people to play games again. And 5 o'clock in the evening, we come out of our house and play football, badminton, takraw, jogging, lari-lari, main, taking the tennis ball and whack each other up. We used to call it popiah in my time in chopping. Some call it chopping. Yeah, my school they call it popiah, but then my school is strange. Then, but you know what I mean, Shamil, right? We need to get the love back again. We enjoy it, but it doesn't mean we love it. So, and because we have this opportunity, this is the best time. I mean, everyone's stopping playing. If I'm KBS, I will look at it with a glee, putting my hand together and say, all right, man, I can reignite, I can start all over again. And, find reasons for people to play. Tax relief will be good. We did it before, we can do it again. Give people tax relief to buy badminton equipment, sports equipment, book halls. Then you don't get tax, the government can invest in sports technology, which will help people to book a court easier, buy a badminton racket faster, learn how to play takraw online, etc. So that is a long-term plan, and that will take a few years from now.
Excellent, Richard. Azri, Richard, thank you for elaborating that.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Before I go on with the next speaker, welcome Bro Safirul into the room, someone we wanted to speak to. However, about the pembudayaan sukan, Richard, I want everyone in the room to take notice of an agency under KBS. It's called IRES, IYRES, which is Institute for Youth Research and Strategies. If you visit their website, you can see something called the IBSM, which is the IBSN, which is Index Budaya Sukan Negara. Okay, so it is quite a wholesome punya approach to indexing the sporting culture index in Malaysia. So what they've done is they've mapped and charted via multiple parameters on how to create an effective index or to understand the interest and the sustainability towards the interest of sports. Jadi please everyone go visit IRES and you can see that if this year punya report is out already, you can see that there's a slight drop in the index budaya sukan tu because of the post-pandemic. However, most of the numbers are quite positive. They're also broken into keterlibatan and all those things. So please go visit IRES. So before we conclude ni, we want to visit every speaker. So let's start with Bro Safiro. Bro, kita duk tanya tadi as a penutup ni, KBS would like to understand from you guys, what would be your opinion on how to alleviate or reduce the stresses of economic impact the time COVID pandemic ni on the sports industry, bro?
Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
This is related to the pandemic.
Dia tadi kita borak pasal VSN lah, bro, but we are in our closing stages, so we wanted to listen to every speaker on how, what do you guys think? We want to listen, then we'll communicate it to Pejabat Menteri, insyaAllah.
Well, number one is a bit difficult because if we talk about sports industry that exists in this country, dia belum clearly defined. Maksudnya, I think a few years back pun we were talking about this with pemandu punya initiative and all that. Memang sampai ke sudah it's not clearly defined. So that's the reason, I guess, why sekarang ni dia agak susah for the government to measure the impact that how is the sports industry affected by not only the pandemic, but in the past pun, sama ada dia boleh play a major role in contributing to our growth. So that's why bila jadi benda-benda macam ni during pandemic, it's very difficult to justify. So it will take longer than this. Kita ni sekarang ni, a lot of people are hurting. Kebanyakannya businesses, sports businesses yang kebetulan baru nak start. Contohnya padang sintetik punya business, Klang Valley ni baru tengah nak booming. Kebetulan ada juga padang-padang baru kebetulan, then this pandemic came, and dia yang paling terasa lah. So it's not so much of sports industry as a whole, because as a whole generally everyone is hurting. Cumanya kebetulan there are people who just started, and they started with a big investment. So they managed to run or rent out maybe for 1 year macam tu, and after that tak boleh, I mean no business. So it is very difficult to do a piecemeal punya packages. Okay, yang ni kena tolong, yang tu kena tolong and all that. So, but I mean, I would expect something like VSN to clearly define and put a number on the sports industry first, in order for it to exist on its own as an industry, and then baru boleh move forward. Whatever that is happening now that is hurting those sports entrepreneurs too, it's a bit too late. They have other more critical bread and butter issues yang bukan kata tolong pun tak boleh jadi apa, tapi susah. You cannot justify helping them without helping some of the other businesses yang not in the sports industry juga, if you know what I'm trying to say. So, you know, my brother is in the business as well. Kebetulan started 5 padang, so baru start jalan not even 1 year kot. Lepas tu terus this pandemic. And of course they are the ones yang with the loudest voice dalam social media and all that. Tapi if you really sit down, how do you create a package? Macam tadi, I got a call from Cik Mustaza asking for my brother's number. Baru nak try engage with this, sebab Cik Mustaza pun baru masuk office dekat dekat industri sukan tu. He's trying to figure out what kind of help that you can give. If there's one thing that I want to touch, tak kira lah industry, merchandise, local brands and all that, government itself ada I think spends a lot when it comes to sports. If you imagine satu je KBS sahaja daripada dulu zaman berapa orang menteri dah sampai sekarang, berapa banyak t-shirt yang dia buat for programs. If we were to give that and prioritize, must be a local brand, a consortium of local brand. So kita make sure kita bring up the local brand. But instead, daripada dulu, you know, someone would have tendered for the job and just pilih yang tak ada brand, buat t-shirt biasa ke, orange ke apa ke. So we are talking about billions lah spend. So I hope when it comes to government programs, you macam kalau nak tolong our industry, so you do something like all ministries, termasuklah Kementerian Pendidikan ke apa ke, prioritize local brands, for example, when it comes kalau nak buat program or events and all that, so that barulah ada perlumbaan orang nak come up with local brand, yang lagi sengit kan, sebab dia tahu government will give to local brands, not just tender out some projects untuk buat t-shirt, but that t-shirt, you know, dia bukan local brand ke apakah, dia beli je lah off the market. So if that's, and there are many other things within the government that can help sports entrepreneurs, and dia cut across ministries, and I'm sure stuff like t-shirt and all that are just an example. So kalau macam usage of local brands in terms of sports equipment, sports attire and all that, government membagi priority. So hopefully akan ada lagi more startups lah. So I want to touch on that sahajalah.
Brilliant bro, brilliant. Obat kata Melayu mantul, mantap betul. So okay, yeah, thank you for sharing a snippet of the effort yang I mean you pun nampak, I pun nampak, and a few other people in this room pun I'm sure they nampak that concerted and honest effort by KBS to start focusing on sports industry ni bro. Jadi you pun ada terlibat secara tak langsung ataupun langsung pun. So you can see that with the pelantikan of Encik Mustaza as the Ketua Sekretariat Industri Sukan, and I pun ada dengar ura-ura something is going to be announced pretty soon lah in terms of the industri sukan tu. So it's positive days lah bro. Ada clouds, dark clouds always because of the pandemic tu, tapi silver lining tu memang ada. And I also want to echo sangat-sangat when you say about this approach ni, this wholesome approach ni, to really think about how do we become, ensure fair and equal assistance to all. How do we ensure, structuring of policies and regulatory measures that is fair to both industry and the governance side. So it's a mighty difficult balancing act lah. But yeah, we salute. I myself salute the efforts and also the input feedback from everyone in the industry, because bukannya nak dengar rainbows and unicorns and butterflies je, kita nak dengar what the heck is wrong with the entire ecosystem, so we know where to start. So again, we want to you and to everyone that we are enablers. The whole this VSN thing is a roadmap, is a blueprint. Dia still tengah buat sekarang ni. So tonight kita dah tangent sikit tadi awal-awal borak pasal the policy side, but now we are talking about what really matters. Macam you kata the kesinambungan, kesambungan, the kelangsungan hidup. So yeah, thanks man, thanks. The secretary is actually recording these sessions and all other town hall sessions, so we will minute and also ledgerkan everything lah into a database for the panel to consider. Jadi to move on, anyone else would like to add on to the question tadi tu?
Shamil, sorry, can I just say goodbye? I apologize to everybody that I need to make a move. Thank you very much and have a good night,
bro.
Everybody.
Thank you for joining us.
Take care. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. So, anyone want to tambah in terms of, possible measures to decrease the burden to the industry? We have about 10 minutes left in our session.
Hi, Shamil. Just like to say, I actually agree that we do need some kind of funds or some kind of help for the sports industry. But I strongly disagree that we should always be relying on the government. For too long, sports has been relying on government. We need to find our own way. And what the government could do instead of just handing out donations and grants is actually incentivize companies to sponsor or to help out in the sports industry. So duit tu tak datang daripada kerajaan, datang daripada syarikat-syarikat. And then they will get a tax exemption or tax rebate, because as we know, well, times are tough, so maybe the government doesn't have enough money to give to everybody, but some corporations and companies could actually give funding and then get better tax exemption. I'm sure we do get some tax exemption now for companies for helping out in sports, but it's not really attractive enough for these big companies to do it. So, and also I think tough times are tough. So for the sports industry, I think we do have to look at other ways to survive this, to ride through this. And I think moving online is one of the ways. From my own experience, I know FAM now is doing online coaching courses. So we're trying to change to still run the coaching courses and keep people involved. We're doing online coaching courses. But like you said, at the end of the storm, there's a golden sky. So hopefully we can ride through this, and that's my few cents worth.
And the sweet silver song of a lark. Okay, bro.
Yes.
Thank you. You never walk alone, bro. So, betul. Again, to echo you sikit, everyone has a role to play. Penat lah cakap cliche lah. Macam broken record lah. Everyone has a role to play. But that is the ultimate truth. And I hope that this kind of town halls, conversations will help towards that. So, because we want, macam again, to touch on Liverpool sikit. Sorry Faizal, Safirul, Azri semua. Nak touch sikit Rizal. Touch sikit on Liverpool pun. When Jurgen Klopp came, he said that he wanted to turn doubters into believers. So I think in the terms of KBS pun sekarang, really want to start internalizing, take a look at ourselves dulu, and then work with everyone to turn everyone into believers. So anyone else would like to add to that? I think very
basically it go back to the earlier point lah. Trust deficit, mindfulness dengan mandate lah. So how do we all reduce the trust deficit? Macam like look at all of us here tonight. We are all here in a way macam we're lucky. We're lucky to be here. Sebab we are in a position where we can go on Clubhouse and talk semua. Tapi what about the people who are actually memang suffering out there, who are, I know so many people who are inside the industry who have to take extra gig economy jobs just to make ends meet. So what about their voices? How are we going to, those people, they may trust dah shattered dah with the system. So how are we going to, bila pandemic ni dah settle apa semua, even now, how do we give them the faith that semua ni akan, there is good that's good to come, that's one. And number two, mindfulness. Earlier on, Nafis ada kata pasal, times are changing apa semua tu, we have to get with the times. Mindfulness tu kena ada amongst everyone, meaning we have to get with the times. We have to know what's the actual problem. Macam for me, it's always been about, there's never been a proper focus towards grassroots. It's always been a top-heavy system. It's always been an unfair system. And, enough is enough. There must be more solidification towards grassroots. But that's where the people are participating, and that's where people are forming meaningful communal and societal relationships. Okay? And number three, the mandate. In order to reduce the trust deficit, there must be a mandate from the people. From the people yang who wants to believe in this. So far, ada mandate ke tak towards all these things that we've been talking about towards in executing it, Yelah, sorry kalau panas sikit.
I agree with Carl. I just hope, I want to add on the grassroots. I just hope that there is consistency. There's a two-way communication, and we are working together. I know everyone has their own roles, but then to make it work for sport, everyone have to have their voice here, and something is working with whatever suggestion or critics, taking it an opinion that we can work on together.
Absolutely lah guys. Carl, you as usual, kita sediakan a target, you just take your pistol and shoot it down. But I appreciate that, bro, because inclusivity is one of the recurring themes of what we need to do. So again, this inclusivity cuts across all the other pillars juga when you talk about professionalism and integrity within the governance side. To reduce the trust deficit, okay, I have two-part answer. First, as part of Team KB, as part of the Secretariat, but via our aspiration to, aspire to best practices, good governance, and using time as our major tool. Because once we put all these wheels into motion, bro, we won't take the luxury of just being, we need time. not like that lah kan, but the time afforded to us within the strategic planning of that approach tu, we judge us on that. That's what we want to say. But the second part of my answer is as a rakyat, just like you. So I want to answer that as well. In terms of reducing the trust deficit tu, in the words of the great Mariah Carey, love takes time to heal when you heard it so much. So basically, the government of the day needs to, as a rakyat lah, I'm speaking kan, the government of the day needs to prove to us that positivity is reigning supreme. So secondly,
sorry Shamil, but
ahead.
I'm just fearing that we might hear all I want for Christmas is you for the second year in a row without having a lively sports industry.
True.
If I may add on what Carl said about grassroots, what I've experienced, my observation so far daripada kecil sampai besar was the key here to macam nak rejuvenate balik interest in sports and to encourage more community participation for sports to be sustainable at community level and grassroots is to do major changes in the Ministry of Education at schools. Because what we've been seeing all this while, curriculum dan benda-benda yang actually they are going more towards academics, tapi not really helping academics pun. But at the same time, eating up time on sports participation. Schools have now become so territorial, not like before, where community are free to together use the school facilities for sports. For example, number one, not only at school, learning institutions, tempat-tempat institusi latihan yang banyak, yang memang bukan nak kata gajah putih, not maintained because of its isolation from the community. So bila all these places, including schools, are isolated from the community, so grassroots sports will die a slow death. So that participation tu akan automatically reduce. Budak-budak yang sekarang ni keluar sekolah pukul 3 dengan sekolah, lepas habis ni, lepas tu sekolah agama apa semua, by 3 o'clock lepas tu ada tuition lagi. So how do you see them participating in sports? And for kids, it's always they have to make a choice between sports and learning. Padahal in many other developed countries, you can do both at the same time. It's not really a choice to make. So bila cakap tentang dengan budak-budak bola pun cukup lah. Parents semua cakap kata, okay, SPM nak kena ada. So kau main bola sampai form 5, main bola dengan SPM juga. So the focus is so much into the SPM tu, seolah-olah SPM will help this boy yang memang academics bukannya bagus sangat pun, tapi dia street smart, dia ada other advantages or other capabilities. Seolah-olah dia kena buat a choice. If you're good at sports, but at the same time you're good at your studies, you have to make a choice. Everything kena buat choice. Nak pergi university, between university and sports, between school and sports. So this, I notice, dah slowly killing the desire to participate in the sport. So that's why bila dia orang besar, when they become members of community dekat satu area ke apa ke, it's not important for them to make sure that sports activities are alive. And kalau nak alive, semua nak kena bayar. Nak kena ada program, nak kena ada sponsor sikit. So they don't do it on their own. Dulu lain, but dulu different because padang banyak, facilities banyak, access to untuk kemudahan tu banyak. Right now, we need to link balik all these facilities yang government dah build ni, so that it can be multi-use. It can be multi-use dan sama-sama community and government take care of the facilities, barulah semua kemudahan akan jadi maintain. Tak semestinya nak kena belanja berbilion-bilion juga government just to maintain or just to tukar padang or just to repair padang. Tak. We need to do this together. So I guess what I nak echo tadi what Cameron said, it's not about not over relying for government funding and all that, but to figure out how do you spend X amount so that the X amount you can stretch for a longer time. How do you use that dana or grant yang dia bagi tu, instead of bagi dia one off, but you incentivize and make sure that this is the business that we run together with the government. So contoh semua orang marah all this FA dengan FC apa semua ni still get dapat government to fund or to jadi sponsor. But bukan nak kata tak boleh, but instead of getting government as a sponsor to the FC, do business with government. Let government jadi shareholder dalam FC tu and do business together. So that's the whole idea of sustainability, yang bukanlah nak cancel out government funding at the start, but to smartly use a startup punya funding, a seed funding, to make sure that this FC will run for longer time. So that's the whole idea. So using that smartly, bukan nak stop terus daripada government help, but to think again about how government is helping. So I don't know lah where I'm going to, but that's my point.
Yeah, Safirul, can I just jump in? Sorry, kejap. So what you said just now was so true. I said it for my statement from the first question. I think that we have to go back to our roots balik kot. I think now it's too late for us to fix sports. You have to understand that sports sebenarnya dalam Malaysia ni is not that important. I mean, it's important for community purposes, important for togetherness, but like I said, Malaysia is driven by numbers, by whatever supports the economy. So I think we have to understand that first, that if we want to build a successful sports industry, we have to make sure that sports is a business that can be sustainable. If we don't have that, in the long run memang tak akan ke mana-mana lah.
Yeah, man. Excellent, Safirul, Faiz, thank you for that. But I just want to say, I nak invite Faizal to comment, because I know for a fact that there has been dialogue, kan, Faizal, with Education Ministry for almost the past 3-4 years juga, in terms of integration and also assimilation of the sports talent development punya plan. Any words there?
Thanks, Syamil. I agree with what tadi Syafirul dengan Faiz cakap tadi. Having positive experience, apa yang kita lalui sekarang, those in power, those who have authority sekarang, they don't have positive experience in sports lah, boleh katakan lah. If they realize the importance of sports, they have positive experience in sports, sama ada di sekolah, universiti, mesti dia support sports. Dan dia faham sukan itu. Apa yang kita hilang tu, yang seperti kata yang korang cakap tadi, dia hilang. The positive experience of sports, mungkin for the past many years tak ada. And then those in power sekarang, authority yang ada sekarang tak dapat nampak benda tu, kepentingan sukan, and then the backlash balik kepada apa yang berlaku sekarang lah during MCO, sports wasn't given the priority. So that is one thing lah. Saya percaya that's why Safirul, saya rasa kita bincang-bincang sebelum ni, macam mana we want those, because majority nanti those graduates at tertiary level, most of them will be somebody who have influence in our ecosystem. If they have positive experience in sports, especially at college level, dia nampak how sports work as an industry. So I believe dia akan faham sukan tu. Macam mana dia berjalan, apa impact dia, apa contribution dia, dan berbagai lagi lah. So, itu yang saya nampak dari segi understanding of sport tu sendiri. And then on what can the ecosystem do? I mean, post-pandemic ni, I believe now is the time for, thinking of, betul Safiro cakap tadi, think of something like a public-private model or NSA private model, kan? Macam Safiro bagi contoh tadi, macam mana FC berjalan, having FA sebagai equity holder, maybe other league dah boleh ada NSA dah boleh start thinking dah on how to create value to make it their sports as industry. Maybe some popular sports in Malaysia dah boleh start fikir dah. Hockey, basketball, they need to start to put on their thinking cap sekarang dah. Macam mana nak face the post pandemic ni? How do I create value for my sports? How do I make it as industry? Ada professional league ke, ada, I don't know lah, maybe nak ada something of franchise system ke for niche sports ke, nak mulakan something yang different, yang luar daripada yang lain. I think this is time for all of us to think lah and move forward. And then from the point of view of myself as ISM and CEO pun, even currently we are working closely with some startups. This is some of the things that we do, working together with the startups. We have now 6 subsidiaries. So we are playing that role juga untuk faham bagaimana startup ni grow, apa yang kita boleh support mereka. So we try to play our part jugalah to understand the ecosystem and work together with them. And itulah, banyak yang cerita kan. Tapi on the MOE part tu, Syamil, of course, on TID ni banyak cerita dia kan. Daripada dulu 2014 nama Dato' Ramlan, kemudian terputus di tengah jalan. Sekarang ni kita nak sambung balik TID, but with something that is boleh kata TID 2.0 lah. I believe we have spoken about it, Yunus, Safirul, during our last dialogue. Something in the final stage dah. We're going to launch the POC insyaAllah in August. And let's see lah how the 2-year punya POC ni berjalan. Dan from there we move lah the ID. So itu sajalah daripada saya. Terima kasih.
Thank you. Okay. Sekarang kita dah sampai the end of our session today. But fret not. Ada about 5 to 6 tadi hands raised that sorry, sadly we cannot layan field your questions tonight. Jadi tapi we have another session at the same time, same place next Sunday. So that will be the second iteration of this Visi Sukan Negara 2030 Amende ni. So to those yang baru join ni, just want to share with you guys that this has been a platform for discourse, touching on almost everything and anything in the world of the sport, world of sports. And it's a topic yang sangat-sangat close to all our hearts, and we feel that there's a lot of quality things already said tonight, and in all the engagements and all the town halls held since August last year, and we look forward to hearing more and more inputs and feedback from all of you. Jadi to my fellow speakers, thank you so much guys. What an exciting night filled with discourse and real impressive debate. So I hope that you guys can join us again next week at the same time. Jadi just to recap, Visi Sukan Negara, you can share your visions and aspirations di www.VSN2030.my. You can also attend the multiple various town halls and engagement sessions being organised by KBS, as well as all the agencies under KBS. Dan again, we'd like to thank everyone, dan kami mengalu-alukan aspirasi, visi dan juga luahan hati anda semua. Thank you so much everyone. Yunus, any closing remarks, brother?
No. I just want to say thank you very much for all the input. This is just a canvassing period. We're just collecting information, insights and opinions of everyone. The approach or the strategic blueprint is something that will be churned out from all this discourse and discussions. So I think what Syamil's team is doing is picking up all these insight, like what Faiz is saying, like what Cameron is saying, like what Safirul is saying, Khal is saying about grassroots. Safirul's idea about bringing in Kementerian Pendidikan, reliving the days of the past, whereby a lot of people can actively be involved and participate in sports without having worried about their academic life. So these are the things that we will definitely, I think Shamil's team will definitely record, and let's just wait what the strategy is. In the meantime, let's just keep on engaging and enrich this discussion. Cheers, mate.
Okay, thank you everyone. So with that,
Okay, thank you.
I end this with thank you. Assalamualaikum. Good
Thank
night.
you. Take
Thanks,
care.
Amel.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
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 Guys.
Stay
Assalamualaikum.
safe.